Waiting for my tank sealer to come. I was doing a bit of work on the throttle rod and connections under here. So we have this cross shaft here. Now what I'm after doing is I'm after taking off the cotter pin on the inside one, and I'm after putting a bit of rubber hose pipe, fuel line we'll say, kind of on that shaft there, going through the cross shaft. And that's after taking up a lot of the wear and the slop in that. And I've done the same with this side here. You can probably just see it there, and I've greased both sides. So there was this bit of wire in it there, so I'm going to take that out now, put a proper cotter pin in. I just put it back on just to make sure that what I'm after doing is after working, and it definitely does seem to have done the trick. It seems to have taken a lot. There's a lot of free play in the lever, so that should just sort it. Now what I want to do up here is I want to fit something, because this is a little bit over and back there as well, as you can see there, and because it's on a spring, I don't know, can we see up there? The spring's there, and there's another fitting up above there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get a rubber washer or an O-ring. I can push this downwards. I'm going to try and fit it in under the dash and then let it up and let it sit on it. And that might take up a bit of the free play in there and just stop it wearing into this dash anymore, and eventually getting even sloppier. So that's just another little job I can do while I'm waiting for parts to arrive. I measured roughly the width of the hole through the dash, and I'm going to try and pick out a nice rubber washer based on that. Some of them are thicker than others. I'm going to have a play around with a few of them. This is just a small selection that I have. I have a full selection from big to small as well to choose from, but yeah, one of these should do. I think it's roughly about 15 mil, so I will have a play around and see if I can get one fitted. Now this is purely experimental. I don't know, is it actually going to even work. I've one picked out that seems to be roughly the right size. Will work out as the right thickness now in a minute, and I can push it down in under the dash and see then will it stay there. If not, I'll go for a wider one. So that's sort of stiffening things up really nice so far, but I have a feeling it might make its way up again slowly. So I'll give you a look at that. So that's how it's looking. It's not exactly straight at the moment, so maybe a slightly thicker one might do the trick. But that's the idea. But I'd hope that I prefer if the brass bushing would stick up a little bit more as well. Well, we'll see how we get on with this one. Push it down a bit, take the pressure off it, straighten it up, and then let it back up. Only going to be a matter of playing around with it a little bit. It feels a lot better. So good. You can hear that friction disc doing its thing as well. Little play around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that back up and go for a thicker one. But I think we're probably on the right road. I think we're probably going to be able to get something that fit in and something that'll look nice. So I'll go and pick out another one and see if I can get a better fit. This one that I'm after fitting is a little bit wider, and it's sitting down just around the brass bushing, and there's a good bit of wear in the brass bushing, but it's definitely now it's bolstering it, it's supporting that now a little bit more, stopping it rubbing the dash, and it feels fairly fairly good there. I'm trying to figure out what's causing that amount of free play, so we'll put our torch up here and have a look and see, and it seems to be in the bottom, that shaft there. There's a bit of a spring on it. I'll try and get the focus there. It seems to be in there. That's where the free play is, where that shaft is going through that right angle bracket. Now I'm after tightening up. The bolts coming through that. In fact, one of the bolts above actually needed to be replaced. That was actually not really doing its job at all. So what I had to replace, I think you can see it in here, the top bolt. I luckily had a spare one, and as you can see, it's perfect one for it. Now the one below here is a little bit, I don't know, is that original, as it's a very long, and there's a nut on the end of it. I'm fairly sure that that bracket actually is threaded, at least so it is on the top one, as you can see. But regardless, I'm after giving that a tightening up as well, because that whole bracket was shaking from side to side, and it was causing a lot of movement. So the only bit of free play that we have now is just at the bottom of that, where it goes through that 90-degree bracket. Now it's going to be hard enough to get that out of it without moving the dash and stuff. I can live with it. I've got the free play out of this and out of the one inside, so what I'll do is I'll take out that wire and I'll put in a nice cotter pin. At least that'll be something I can do to improve things a little bit. It might come out by hand, and if it doesn't, I'll get the device, I'll get the pliers in there, and that should just improve things. So I'll get the pliers in at that. So yeah, that is where our free play is. I'm just making sure that that bracket actually isn't, it is spinning a little bit, so I'm going to try that bottom bolt for another little tighten. I can see a nut this side, and I'll try the top one there for a tighten while I'm at it. Definitely seems to be shaking a bit more at the bottom compared to the top. Okay, another quick little look in there. Yeah, it's definitely shaking a little bit. It's actually the whole dash is actually, I think the dash is moving a little bit as well. Well, I'll get in there with my, I think it's a 10 or 3, it's strange, it's not 11/16. I'll get in there anyway and give that a tighten up, and while I'm at it, I'll make sure all these are good and tight as well, because it looked to me like the dash panel there is just moving a little bit. So every bit that we can tighten up will improve things. So what I'm after doing, you can probably just see the very top of that throttle rod. You have a cotter pin, you have kind of a washer, and you can just see my O-ring sitting at the top. And what that's after doing is, because it's a nice thick one, it's after pushing down this shaft through that 90-degree bracket there, and it's after pushing a bit of the worn shaft downwards, so it's a little bit wider now, and it's sort of taking up a good bit of free play. So I'm happy enough with that. So I just again pull that out and put in a nice cotter pin, and that'll be that tied up, be sorted. So, and this is how it looks. I've manipulated it around a bit there, so it looks exactly as it did look. It's just that the O-ring is under there now, and we're not having a bit of metal on metal noise and wear and stuff like that, because I suppose the dash does get worn then after a while, the bush gets worn. So I'm just going to put a bit of grease down through that, and that should slow down the wearing, and we might just call that done. I'm not certain if was ever anything over that kind of a rubber thing or anything like that. Something like, for argument's sake, a bit of a fitting or a cover you know, something like that, a cap of some kind, I don't know, to stop dirt and dust going down. I don't know if there ever was anything like that on them. I think they were just like that. That brass bushing is fairly well worn inside and outside, so that'll just help keep those springs tensioned a bit more, and it'll slow down the wear. So I had brought out my full set of O-rings there just to get the right one. So I also 2 videos back, I think I did some work on the radiator hose pipes. I didn't realise that I had a new bottom hose pipe. This is for a Ferguson 20, the petrol engine or the kerosene engine, TVO. So this would fit, because the pipe of the radiator starts about there, so it definitely would fit, but it'll stick out a lot more than this. And what I find about this one is it clears the bonnet. Sometimes the side of the bonnet starts wearing into the pipes. I know in the Ferguson 20 diesel that can happen. And this is just a nice, sleek, it's like out of the way. It's a nice shape, and that seems to be working very well. I did have to replace a jubilee on it, as I noticed when I put my hand in there after putting it on the next evening. There was actually water dripping in there, so the jubilee is actually stripped. It would tighten so far and go loose again, starts skipping threads. So I replaced that. If I am stuck, I will fit this. That will definitely work there, there's no doubt about it. And if I do that, then all of them are replaced. But for the moment, I'm going to try and see if I can source a new one of them to have in my parts drawer. And if not, I can keep this if it does decide to split or burst or start leaking down the road. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon though. So I'm also after adding a grommet onto that. And what that's going to do is it's going to stop that brass bushing from wearing the dash anymore. So I have it on, and I'm just going to give it a bit of spray grease now, just down through the grommet. There's plenty there, it can work its way, it won't do any harm. And work that into it. So after taking a lot of that metallic sound out of the throttle, you know, when you were pulling it, you could really hear metal on metal. So let's work that into it. And that should stop any more wear. So that's definitely going to be a lot nicer to use. You still feel the friction disc doing its thing, holding the throttle where it's meant to be. I don't think I got any oil in there. No, I didn't know. So yeah, it's only another small job. As I said, I'm waiting for parts to come, so seems to be working fine. And things are a lot kind of snugger feeling now. There used to be a bit of forward and back there, metal on metal, so, and scratching sound. So no, that's definitely worth doing.